Hello everyone, the idea of this series is just a way to let me talk my mind and give ideas for things. Can't promise that the episodes for this series will make sense, but I do hope that these videos can make you wonder and speculate like I do about similar things. In the episode, I'm going to be talking about stuff that could make this crazy crossover tactical RPG an amazing trilogy. Now, video game crossovers have been a thing since the 90s and have become more of a mainstream thing, with companies collabing together more often than competing with each other. I mean, of course competition is still a thing between companies, but due to the popularity of the idea of your favorite video game character working together with another video game character you like, is just something your child or man-child brain goes nuts for, and is also something companies see to make easy money. And let's be honest, it just works. From the famous Team Fighter Marvel vs. Capcom 2 to the iconic Italian plumber kicking it with the blue blur to attend the Olympics, which I never understood how any of the track racing games were any fair, since you could play as Sonic as Shadow. But back to the main topic. And the question you may ask is why I'm bringing up video game history about video game crossovers. Well, what if I told you that there is a game series out there with video game collaborations and character crossovers you've never seen? Well, if you know what the game was from the thumbnail and already have a guess to what it might be, then you are correct. I'm talking about Jump Force. No, I'm just kidding, but it is a big crossover for anime. What I'm going to be talking about today is Project Cross and how it could become a trilogy. When the 3DS first came out in 2011, it didn't have a lot of games to work with, but it did have some good ones like Pilot Wings Resort and, in my own opinion, Street Fighter 4. It wasn't, that good like the console, but it was still good to have. It wouldn't be until months later of the same year till we got Mario 3D Land and Mario Kart 7. And it wouldn't be for a whole year again till we got the game made by Bandai Namco for the 3DS. On October 11, 2012, 3DS owners were able to get their hands on Project Cross Zone, where classic icons from Bandai Namco video games were thrown into a tactical RPG gameplay. But Bandai Namco didn't want to just make it about themselves, so they thought back to when they were just Namco, before the merge, and remembered a forgotten gem that was, and is, pretty much the base and inspiration for this game. I'm talking about their title, Namco Cross Capcom, a game that is literally the predecessor to the new series, and that's right, they worked with Capcom, so they called them up, told them about the game, discussed the approved characters to appear in new series, and just like always, Capcom was generous enough to give it their all and please the fans and give us some of their lovable characters. But Bandai Namco wasn't satisfied yet. They felt like more could be done, and thought of other companies that could contribute to the soon-to-be-made masterpiece. What other company has a reputation of loving their fans and has interesting and lovable characters? Without hesitation, they were able to get a hold of Sega to talk and discuss about the collaboration, and Sega was on board with the whole thing. Sega and Capcom were generous enough to give us characters from their iconic titles like Sega's Virtua Fighters and Sakura Wars, and Capcom gave us characters from Street Fighter, Mega Man X, and even Resident Evil. With these three companies and a cast of iconic characters, they were able to make a whole new original story in Project Cross Zone, with a plot so good that the characters had to overcome by literally defeating the main antagonists from their respective games. Another part about the game is seeing 3D characters from different genres of games get thrown into a tactical RPG game with unique pixel sprite art from their character. As you progress, more characters show up to help you and even stop you. It wouldn't be until 3 years later that we got a sequel to Project Cross Zone, releasing on November 12th, 2015. We got Project Cross Zone 2. The game did so well that Bandai Namco made a sequel. They rang up Sega and Capcom again, and just like last time, everyone was on board so much that Capcom and Sega wanted to add more of their iconic characters to the cast, like their newer titles from Sega's Yakuza and Capcom's Ace Attorney. But seeing even more potential to make another masterpiece of art, Bandai thought of more inclusions they could make, and then it hit them. A year ago, Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS released, and we had that Master Hero Soccer guy come in and ask for assistance in making it. Maybe, just maybe, with three iconic companies known for their multitude of characters, Nintendo wanted in and gave us characters from their Fire Emblem series and a character from the Xenoblade Chronicles series. Now with 4 major companies helping with the sequel, we got a whole new story involving more antagonists, newer worlds from multiple series, and newer mechanics and upgrades to get for your team. Now I'm not trying to do a review on the two games, I just want to give a brief summary on what they are to get into the main part of the video. And I think the success of the two games deserve another sequel to make it a trilogy with a small explanation. Now, for starters, I'm going to talk about the game in 3 segments: mechanic / gameplay, story, and then characters to end it off. For mechanics and gameplay, I wouldn't really say the tactical RPG mechanic and gameplay of party systems and turn-based movement needs to change, as it was a good way to pace the game and has nice strategy to it, as certain characters and parties can do certain things, making you need to plan certain attacks or move your units in certain areas to deal with certain threats. The only thing I can think about them slightly adding is being able to switch solo units in the middle of a chapter instead of before the chapter starting, and also being able to add more gear to the units. It would give them a special boost to certain characters or certain abilities during a chapter, as the gear in the game was kind of basic, as all you would do was switch your weaker gear for the stronger one, or to one that would just better suit the situation. For the story, I would like to see a Capcom villain be the main antagonist, like probably M. Bison from Street Fighter, or someone like, I guess, Wesker from Resident Evil, because as much as I love Resident Evil, there are other characters, but he's the most iconic one. Their intention of merging the worlds again obviously would be for absolute power and control. Of course, they would know about the event, since at the ending of Project Crossline 2, sorry for spoilers, the characters from their respective worlds would meet at the All the Worlds stage. If it was someone like M. Bison, he would be doing it to merge the worlds again to steal and gain more power to evolve his psycho power. It would be an easy job for the developing team, since M. Bison would already have a sprite and some animations from his appearance in the previous games. If it was someone like Wesker, his motivation would be to use the power and the many worlds to test the strength of viruses, and would use the power maybe to make a newer one, involving the merging of the worlds, and maybe even, to quote his line from RE5,
"Every day, humans come one step closer to self-destruction. I'm not destroying the world, I'm saving it."
Lastly, the most important segment are the characters. Of course, we would still have Sega, Capcom, and of course Bandai Namco and Nintendo, with some new additions like some characters from Nintendo's Kid Icarus, like Pit teaming up with his counterpart, Dark Pit, and Palutena, either being a solar unit or teaming up with someone from the cast, like, oh, I don't know, maybe Valkyrie from Legends of Valkyrie. I mean, look at them. You're telling me they wouldn't work well together? Shout out to my good buddy who came up with that idea. From Sega, we could get the new character from the new Sakura Wars, and especially from the new Yakuza Like a Dragon, and maybe someone from the House of the Dead games to be a solo unit. Capcom, there are too many to name, but since all the characters from the previous game would be returning, we could probably get away with adding a few more, like people from the later Dead Rising games to team up with Frank West, like Chuck Green, where his attacks can be the multiple buildable weapons, some newer Resident Evil characters to have chemistry with Chris and Jill, either for story or as units, and for solo units, we could give X and Zero Axel from Mega Man X7, and maybe even have Beautiful Joe as a solo unit, throw his little personality in there to spice up the character interaction. Of course, for the company that's making the game, Bandai Namco can have newer characters from their newer games, like the new Tales of Arise, or maybe a solo unit from Scarlet Nexus. Maybe even a solo unit from the Tarnished. I don't know, whichever one you want, I guess. It depends, because Elden Ring lets you create your own character, so however the Tarnished wants to look, it can look however you want. So yeah, it really depends which Tarnished you want to make for the game. Bandai Namco, do it. But of course, it just won't stop there. Both previous games got a company to join the group and got new characters to cross over, and since the 3DS is pretty much on its final legs with the eShop closing and no games have been made for it, I feel that it would be great if it was made for the Switch, or whatever console comes out whenever it's made. And of course, since it's a newer one, it would have more space, have more worlds, and also more characters, so the addition of characters and worlds just works, because more memory space, am I right? Now I feel that there are two more companies that could jump in and give us some interesting characters and worlds, and those companies are Konami and Square Enix. I believe both companies have what it takes to make a contribution to make this the mother of all crossovers. Square Enix is mostly known for the Final Fantasy series and of course Kingdom Hearts, and others like Dragon Quest literally has 11 games and like close to 10 spin-offs, I think, so shouldn't be too hard. If we were to get Kingdom Hearts characters, it would probably be like Sora and Riku at best, and for Final Fantasy characters, I can see probably someone from FF8 or FF10, but most likely it's probably going to be someone from Final Fantasy 7 or 15. So pretty much the poster boys from their respective game, and probably a character close to them. Konami though, they could contribute characters from their Castlevania series, like the Belmonts, and maybe someone like Alucard as a solo unit, or someone to just spice up the story. Another unit could be Solid Snake or Raiden, probably both, from the Metal Gear series. I could also probably see someone from Silent Hill being a solo unit like Heather Mason, since every game only has the main protagonist venturing by themselves. But if they did get a team, then it would probably just be a team with two main protagonists like Harry Mason and James Sunderland from Silent Hill 1 and 2. Of course, they would get enemies too. We could get basic enemies from their respective series, like enemy soldiers from Metal Gear and monsters from Silent Hill, and the many random encounters from Final Fantasy. The best part would be the bosses that would pop up from the missions in the previous games. I could see us getting into a fight with Pyramid Head in the amusement park from Silent Hill, or someone like Death or Dracula from Castlevania, while you're also fighting someone like, who was in the previous games, Vile for some reason. Who knows? Or hey, they could even add some bosses from Nintendo. Like I wouldn't mind seeing Hades pop up for some reason. He's just like, hey, don't do that. Or even Medusa. Like that's probably how you meet Pit in Dark Pit and Palutena, is like they're getting stopped by Medusa. Due to the system this would be released on, I feel like these additions would work. I thought of all this with the experience with the previous games in mind. Having discussions with like-minded people was helpful as well. Being able to hear other people's views on thoughts on the series gave me the ability to see multiple ideas to talk about for this video. Of course, the whole idea of companies collaborating together to make the game is amazing. This wasn't really a review video essay, since I can't really do those. This was more like a discussion, me listing things off for a potential sequel that I feel would do the series good and make a spectacular trilogy. I would like to do something to go in depth with it, with the story, the whole idea, but these were just my ideas on what the third game in the series could look like, and I and many others can only hope for another entry in the series to come in the future.